Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and thank you for joining this Discover New Project AuraDB with Michael and Alexander this week. Hi, Michael. How's it going?
Good morning. Yeah, it's mostly going well. And so there's one thing that's not so nice. Our chameleon got his leg amputated last week, and
Oh no!
he's still recovering and not feeling very strong. So that's the only negative
Wow.
thing.
How did that
But
happen?
otherwise, yeah, he had an infection that didn't get better with antibiotics, and it he couldn't use the leg anymore.
Oh no!
And we so the vet wanted to prevent this from spreading to the rest of the body.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, so that was the only sad thing, but
yeah.
But otherwise, we had our anniversary yesterday, 18 years being married.
Oh, congratulations!
So
Yeah,
we
that's
went
good.
to an Indian place, which was really really nice. And so that was good. One thing for the stream, actually, I was listening last week to the Acquired podcast episode about Enron and this really horrible corporate greed, and I think we should do an episode once about the Enron emails, because that's a public data set that's actually
Is it?
quite
Oh yes,
often used
then we should do that. Yeah.
in graph analysis and so on. So we should do perhaps sometime next year a session on
It's like
Enron.
Similar to
It's like all the Enron emails from the court
Panama
cases,
Papers,
and
I guess.
yeah, exactly similar to that, exactly. Yeah, and then the other thing, I continue to play Skyrim, which is still good. And actually, there was an also podcast interview with the creator of Skyrim and Morrowind and Oblivion last week as well. So I was thinking if we should do like one fun session one day with like Skyrim related data. So I'll need to see if there's some fun data sets out there, but
yeah,
that would be cool. So
that
like a video
fun.
game.
I then need to do some research.
Seems so, right? It's still really good after 10 years. So I've not played it before, but I started this week and this year, and it was it's really good. Like, yeah. So that's like some new ideas for the stream. But this week we also have Jason on the stream, right? So
this
Jason
week is another
really
very
packed.
busy week. So I guess before the year closes, and then if anybody thought after notes we take a breather and do a little bit of a less busy schedule, well, you are wrong.
Yeah,
we
totally.
we have a lot of things going on. So yes. Tomorrow, going meta, episode 11 with Jesus.
Wow.
We talk about graph expectations. So like, so that's a new thing on how to model your data and how to get your how you think your graph should look like, how you model your data, and then to make sure that the data actually is modeled and is the schema basically builds in a way you want it to be. So like
kind of including kind of checks and verifications,
exactly,
so you put up the model, and then that helps you also to check your data before it gets in or something like that.
Yeah, something like this, exactly. So we hinted at this last month we wanted to do it, but now we're going to do it with a fuller episode tomorrow. Then what you said, learn with Jason Langsdorff, who has the Learn with Jason YouTube channel. So if you are watching this, he will be joining Adam on Wednesday, where they talk about how to deploy applications, Neo4j applications in particularly with Netlify. So that's on a Wednesday, and next week obviously we will be back on Monday. Then I have a Neo4j live on APOC library updates, where I had invited Giuseppe Villani, a member of the community, who's talking about new features of APOC and interesting procedures, how they work.
Cool. Always a good topic.
Yeah, that's on the Tuesday, and then on the Thursday next week, 15th. So I think that's one of the last episodes, streams we have. Not one of the last episodes. It's episode number 4 on the GraphQL book with Will.
Oh, good, super. I'm not sure. Are we doing one in the last week, like on the the 19th or something like that, the Monday?
I think we have not decided yet. I think so. I mean, we can. I'm around.
Me too.
I'm happy
So
to
I was
do
thinking
one last.
about,
Sorry.
I was thinking about perhaps you could invite Pierre back and do one on Advent of Code with Cypher again. So I did
Yeah.
this year already like 4 days. I still have to do today. And most of the days, because I didn't have a lot of time, I just used Cypher to solve the things.
Yeah.
Because it was fastest for me to
Yeah.
just use Cypher. And we could invite Pierre and look at some of the solutions and some of the approaches for Advent of
Yeah.
Code on the, I don't know what it is, what
I'll
date
ask
is. It's the
him. I'll
19th or
ask
something
him.
like that.
I ask him for the 19th. Yeah. So we can do a special Advent of Code with Cypher episode on the 19th.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah. So that's the plan,
Super.
I guess, for the next 2 weeks, and almost also the year,
All
sort
busy.
of leading to the end of the year of 2022. Today we have obviously one more episode with AuraDB in particular. So if you are watching this for the first time, we will pick a data set or look at data and explore the data set, think about a couple of questions that the data set could answer for us, or we can answer with that data set, and then model a graph accordingly, load some data and work with it. So that's going to be interesting topic. Topic of today is ChatGTP, which is something like GTP3. Which I talked to Xixing Huang a couple of weeks ago for his Dr. AI presentation. He also was present at Nodes in November. So that's like a chat used for chatbots, I guess, a lot. So to
large language model. Yeah, we can talk a little bit about the details.
Yeah, we talk. Okay, so like modeling
really
text
interesting,
to code more or less, and to work it over.
Yeah.
Neo4j AuraDB free quickly and very shortly is the free version of AuraDB. AuraDB is our graph database as a service, and so I had this the other week on Discord. So maybe just to clarify, so Neo4j is also the company name, but Neo4j in essence is the database, or is the database, and Aura is our offering as this database, as Neo4j as a database in the cloud, which we manage for you as customers or users. So it's still Aura is not a product in itself. Or it is a product, but it is not.
It's a product, yeah.
It's Aura is Neo4j in the cloud.
So exactly. Exactly. So
that's
not a separate database or a separate implementation or so. It's exactly. It's managed Neo4j in the cloud. Exactly.
Yeah. So that I think a couple.
All these names can become confusing at some point, right? So there's so many names, and actually, I'm happy that now with Workspace, some of the many tools merged together into one surface. So there are fewer tools and fewer tabs and fewer names basically to deal with. Because I think for someone new to Neo4j, there's so much terminology already, so we don't need to add on top of that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's what we're gonna do, and
cool.
Let's go there.
Let's kick it off. Exactly. So I just wanted to mention again, all the notes videos are online. So if you go to devneo4j.com/notes/videos, you see all the notes videos online here, and you can basically watch them all and catch up on things, everything from building applications to graph data science to cybersecurity and lots of other topics, some cryptocurrency, healthcare talks, and many more as such. So check it out. So, like the rest of the world, I've been playing around with ChatGPT last week. So, OpenAI on November 30th, which is only 6 days ago, published their implementation of a chatbot using the large GPT-3 Da Vinci model. And what's interesting is people all around the world try to kind of get it to the limits, and it's actually quite impressive what it delivers, right? So you would think, okay, it's a language model trained on a bunch of data, right? So it's pretty large. It has like 175 billion parameters or so, and they train it on the whole internet more or less. And but it's actually really impressive what it can do. So we'll do some demos, but then we can also look at how can it help us in our work with, with data, with databases, with graphs as such, and see what we can do with that. So not so much Aura today, perhaps a little bit, but more like looking at what can modern language models do. And actually, behind the scenes, they're using transformers and also graph neural networks. So there are graphs everywhere, right? So they're still behind the scenes. So it's basically if you go to.
It's interesting to see what like you said, right? What other applications you can build with this. So this is very very exciting to use and to combine, particularly with graphs. It's very interesting. So
exactly. So you can just talk to it. So you go just to chat.openai.com, and then you can log in with an OAuth, and then you can start chatting with it. So it actually got a name. So last week it didn't have a name. Today it has a name. It's now calling itself Assistant. You can also ask it for its name and so on. And then you can give it tasks, right? So for instance, I can say, what is a graph database, right? So just a general question. And then you see that it starts answering. Let's see if this works, or if you have any demo hiccups.
I think the page is over. I wanted to just go to a page, post in the chat, and it says,
here. It just had, so it now says graph database type of database that uses graph structures with nodes, edges, and properties to store data, nodes represent entities. So it's basically what I would have said, right? So it's kind of funny that it repeats the stuff that I would have said. So, but what we can do now is, what is a graph database in the style of Jack Sparrow, for instance? So then it can do any kind of style, and it can do any kind of language as well, right? So, and then you can, while it's thinking, it's really probably overloaded by, I've seen this morning a lot of Chinese and Japanese people. So it's
the website says it's overloaded.
Yeah, we can look at some of the things. So what you can do is basically also let it answer in different languages, right? So you can say repeat this in German, right? And oh no, I think it's a little bit overloaded. Anyway, what we can do is the following. I did some things before, so let's see what else it can do. So for instance, you can tell it, imagine you're an information extraction tool. So that's something that one of our friends, Tomasz, did with it. And you say, you can always tell it, imagine to be ABC and do something, right? And then you can say, you're an information extraction tool, and you can extract entities and relationships from text by their names. The output must be in CSV format. What would be the output of the following text? And then it's in Henry VIII text from Wikipedia, I think, right? And what it does, it answers basically and extracts all the things from the text, for instance, right? So that's it can do stuff like this, right? So
wow.
Or imagine your data generation tool export a generated 100-element list of company names and their executives as CSV, with company and executive being the two columns. So it goes ahead and generates the content for you, right? So, which is pretty nice. And so you can also get the output as code as well. You can also tell it, hey,
can you download this as well?
Yeah, you can just say copy code.
Is this just a snippet, or is it the whole list? Then?
So this is, I think, only a snippet. So it's kind of limited because these language models have like a 4096 token buffer. So it sometimes stops, and then you have to say continue, and then continues with the stuff, right? So it always uses like a window over the output that it generated, and then generates new output. That's why it's usually also, if you look at it, it's usually outputting things word by word in real time, basically. But you can also do stuff. You know how often we looked at at JSON and said, okay, can we use this JSON directly? Do we need to convert it into CSV or so? So I just grabbed some JSON from D3 from the Les Miserables dataset, right? And said to it, convert this JSON into a CSV. So I pasted the JSON, and then it basically extracts the CSV from it. Right? And then, so you don't need to do it yourself. Although I have to say, you have to be careful because like any language model, it's kind of sometimes making stuff up, sometimes it approximates, and sometimes it's, they're really creative. So they these language models seem to be really eager to please the human on the other side. So no matter, or oftentimes it basically just makes stuff up, right? So you always have to check the output if it's correct. So for instance, in my first attempt, I had here for Mother Plutarch a number 9, right? And then I looked at the code actually, and it was actually group 0. It was not group 9, but group 0, right? So it's basically made a mistake there, right? And if you just trust it 100%, then you always should check if the output is correct, right? So so let's see if it lives again, or if I have to reload. Let me just open this in a new tab. While we're looking at this, we can also look. So people have been sharing screenshots all over the place with this stuff, right? So. So for instance, this is also something that Tomasz did. It says, imagine your tool that can transform English to cipher query language, right? What would a query look like for this question? Find the shortest path from London to Manchester, right? And then it basically goes ahead and generates a syntactically correct cipher statement, right? So if I copy this code, for instance, so I can't copy it because it's a screenshot. But I actually can copy it because I don't know if you knew that in OS X, at least, you can nowadays just select text from images. So you can just do this.
Oh, okay.
And that allows you to just select text. So I can basically just select this. And then I could basically create a new Aura instance really quick. And then we can execute this as well. So that's also a really nice AI feature, basically.
That's a good feature. I remember how tedious this usually was, or is still, if you have some text in a PDF or an image where somebody scans.
PDFs are really annoying. That's true. Right? So
I just want to copy this over for something.
Yeah, exactly. So some of the other examples are here as well. So I tried it with Advent of Code, but Tomasz tried it also with so one thing on the NLP extraction, he also made it really complicated, or he made it advanced. And he also said, "Oh, give me the output as Wikipedia IDs or Wikidata IDs." So because every entity in the world has a Wikidata ID, and it says, "Hey, connect this to Wikidata and extract the entities for this text that we just saw." But he said that basically the Wikidata IDs are made up numbers.
Okay,
just some random, so it doesn't do that. But what it, for instance, does is he tried it also on answering Stack Overflow questions. So for instance, there was this Stack Overflow question here, and then he basically pasted in the Stack Overflow question, and then got the answer for it, basically from including code example back.
Right? So that code example also works.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really interesting to see basically the actual quality, and that you don't need to Google for stuff, right? So basically you can also say
just type it in. I think every university on the planet will ban this tool immediately. If you are allowed to do internet research, then it's okay.
Right. So for instance, you could say list 5 cities in Germany or something like that, right? Then it gives you 5 cities in Germany. But you can also say, what I tried, what's the first verse of the US anthem, right? So, which is not so difficult, right? But repeat in Japanese. Oh, and that's actually funny. Sometimes it says it can't do it, and then if you try again, I had it several times that it just does it, right? So
I see.
And I sent it to my wife, and because she's learning Japanese, and so she said, "Yeah, it's just the kind of the US anthem, basically." Translated. And you can also say repeat it in German and so on, right?
Yeah.
But what's also really interesting is basically code examples. So, but we can also ask it other things, right? So what is graph data science, right? And then it just tells you what graph data science is. How would you project a bipartite graph of movies and of users rating movies into a graph data science, into a Neo4j graph data science in memory graph? Show the code. So I've not tried this before. So it basically loads the graph, right?
Okay.
So this is basically loads the bipartite graph CSV, merges the user, the movie, and then creates the rating, including the rating property. So it's actually correct cipher, right? So the only thing create graph in memory is not correct, right? So, but it's basically this load CSV is correct, right?
Yeah.
So we can basically change our question a little bit. Into a Neo4j library. Let's see. Yeah. So here it uses basically the GDS core,
okay.
but then it goes for float CSV again, right? I actually wanted to have the projection code as such, but show how to create a graph projection in the Neo4j graph data science library. It explains us that we can use the graph projection procedure, right? And then now it works, right? Really nice. And it also you see also it has history, right? It remembers basically what we talked about, right? So it also knows that we talked about users in movies and ratings.
Oh, it does. Yeah, so, I see. Yeah, cool.
Right. So and so basically, so this create is incorrect because it's now project because the syntax changed, but it also has a time cutoff of September 2021. So that was before the changes happened, right? So that's also explains some of the stuff is not up to date. But this is the correct projection code for graph data science library, right? So it's also for docs lookup tool. It's really great, right? So what is the
that's
syntax
great, for
load CSV in Neo4j, for instance, right? So then you can basically ask it also documentation questions, right?
Exactly.
As well.
That's usually,
and it explains stuff as well, always, right? So it always explains stuff as well, right? So you don't just get the code thrown at you, but it also explains why and how and things like that, right? So what is your cutoff date?
Do not have a
special. What day is today? Last time it told us that it's basically its time was September 21st, basically.
I see. Okay.
So they are always updating it as well.
I
so
mean,
with the name and stuff like that. So there's. But what you can also do is imagine we take one of these examples that it has here, right? So let's see. I just copied this into my editor and change it a little bit. So let's see. Imagine I had made a mistake and created something like this. Can you find the error in this cipher statement? Question mark. So instead of creating the relationship, I will just wrote match relationship, right? To import movie ratings. So, and let's see if it's doing the right thing. And if it's not overloaded. Because what's really interesting is, so I also tried it with Java code. For instance, I gave it a piece of Java code and said, can you parallelize it or something like that, right? See? So match statement is used to find existing nodes, but it can't create new stuff. You need to use the create keyword as you have done in the first 2 lines of the query. So it's really like also conversational,
exactly. It's like another person you talk to.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, and that's really impressive, right? So, and it's also world knowledge, right? So you can also ask it anything that any rare things that you can think of, right? So, and I don't know what's the height of the tower in Neuschwanstein or something like that, right? So let's see if it knows this. So there's so much knowledge in there, which is really crazy across languages and so on, right? So, so for instance, what I did as well is I gave it some code. Let's just write this really quick.
I mean, what this tells you, the height of the castle's tower is 80 meters. What this tells you is the power of knowledge graphs. I mean, this is just
exactly, because it's trained from that, right? So and so for instance, if I gave this, can you parallelize this from this statement? So this is some Java code, right? So it just takes an range, for instance, from 0 to 1 million, and then computes the squares and creates a list from it, right? So, and basically what I did last time was, it was actually more complex code, like in 5-liner, 10-liner, right? So, and then you basically say parallel stream, and then, so, and that's correct, right? So to run in-stream parallel, I mean, it kind of mixes up some stuff, right? So it didn't actually use the parallel stream method, it used the parallel method, which is actually correct, right? But in general, it's pretty impressive what it can do, right? And so we can actually tell it. Let's try it actually, right? So if you want to use Aura with this, so remember what we did with the generate some CSV, right? So imagine you are a data generator. Please generate 20 lines of email metadata as CSV. So the columns are sender, receiver, subject, date. Right?
So we should get a CSV file.
I don't know if it will generate 20 lines and if it does it, but I mean, it's always surprising as well what comes out of it. But so far, I've been not really disappointed, right? And I asked it lots of questions. I asked it about fusion generation. I asked it about the worst people in the world and like future of humanity. And I have like a few hundred screenshots.
42 come back?
No, actually, what's the answer for every? So
yeah, but that's very good.
So I haven't pressed enter yet. I just want to wait for the data generator thing to come back.
I think it's
it's a little bit overloaded right now. That's true. So they have to scale up their because it did it in the first time, right? So when I did it here, I also just said, imagine you're a data generation tool.
Yeah, but it's I think it's a lot of users trying it out.
Yeah. So we can just quickly answer this, and then generation tool. Oh, it doesn't answer to 42.
No.
Well, let's try this again. And then I would say, how would I import this data into a Neo4j using Cypher? Or even without using Cypher. Right? So let's see. It doesn't.
Doesn't want it now.
To send some to the receiver subject date. Or perhaps it doesn't like the metadata thing.
Maybe. But I mean, it's very impressive that you can do this, and yeah, I think for any type of interaction on a website, like what you said earlier with the docs and stuff. I mean, this is
it's actually much better than Google in many ways, right? So because it gives you kind of the concise answer that kind of with explanations and so on. The only drawback is that it really sometimes makes stuff up, right? So that's basically
I guess I mean
the problem, right? So
I guess needs to be configured a little bit in that regard, but it's
So for instance, you can also say comparative stuff, right? Compare graph databases with relational databases. And then it basically does this. So this is basically our load script for the email data, right? So I also said just that data, right? And then it basically shows us the load CSV for the sender, receiver, and the email sent with subject and date, right?
Yep.
And
it didn't want to create the demo CSV, but at least I mean.
Right. And here is the explanation: graph databases and relational databases. Two databases of. So data model is the difference. Relational use a tabular data model, and graph databases use in nodes and relationships. More flexible, intuitive, right? And someone actually from the company asked which database model will be used in the future. And let's see what it answers us. But for them, it gave back basic graph databases, which was kind of funny. Right? So it also says that Cypher is the query language for graph databases and so on. So which is pretty cool that it knows all this stuff, right? And so it says currently relation databases, but other database models will be used in the future. Okay, so we don't get the graph thing back. But what I really like is basically that it generates and also can fix code stuff, right? So that's really nice. I'm a little bit sad that it didn't generate our CSV data because I still wanted to do the round trip actually through. What we can also, what is AuraDB? Because if the question comes up again, we can just send people to
send it to ask the bot,
right? And ask it there. So what I just wanted to say, this is it doesn't like to the generation thing.
Yeah.
Today it's a little bit too overwhelmed. But our Chinese colleague said that it actually generated a blog post in English and Chinese, and the Chinese was actually pretty good. So it was more formal than he would write it, but he said it's kind of fluent language. See, it says AuraDB, not
Aurora. Okay, it did. Okay.
Okay. Well, what is Neo4j Aura? So I mean, Aurora is an database engine. So it's an underlying engine for database systems, basically.
Yeah.
So it's basically running several of the AWS services as such.
Yeah.
What I actually wanted to do. Oh, you can also tell it to generate you. No, it's it.
Now it found the answer. Yeah.
No. It also says AuraDB.
Oh, Neo4j AuraDB.
See,
wow.
Now it makes stuff up, right? So it really wants to please us, so it makes stuff up, and where it doesn't, instead of saying I don't know, it's basically so. But we can tell it, right? So this is incorrect, right? So this is not true. Neo4j AuraDB is Neo4j's cloud service. They can also tell him when something is wrong, right? But you can what you can say, for instance, imagine you want to do a Twitter thread or something like that, right? Twitter thread on how to model a recommendation graph model for movies, right? So, and then basically it does this. Last time I did like a Python example where I said generate like a 5-step video script for explaining how to do aggregations in pandas or something like that, right? Generate a 5-step video script with code how to do aggregations in pandas and data frames. Right, so here it basically has your Twitter thread, basically explain about graph, recommendation model, movies that are available, and the ratings that users have given to movies, biportate graph. Once you have this, you can use a graph projection, and then you can compute generation recommendations on that uniportate graph, right? And that data model can be refined and so on, and that's your Twitter thread, right? So a lot of marketing professionals will be out of work, I guess. I mean, because this is really, I mean, it's all correct, right? So in here is nothing wrong, right? So I mean, here it made stuff up, but down here it basically created a correct Twitter thread for stuff, right? And you can't type so fast, right? And other people said that. So here, for instance, 5-step video script for demonstrating how to do aggregations in pandas data frames, right? So, and it's actually 6 steps, but
it's
right?
5 steps. It's a bonus episode,
right? Loads the data as CSV, then uses group by, and then you just want to say group by year, and then aggregation, and then you can do this, right? And so that's pretty cool, right? So because it saves you like all the typing and all the you just want to kind of look at what do you want to do, and then tell it kind of what to do, and then basically repeat in German, right? So and then it basically can do different languages and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting what the future will hold with this, right? So because this is GPT-3 and they're currently GPT-4 is being trained, which is like again, or 10 times or 100 times bigger than GPT-3.
Yeah.
And that will be even more comprehensive, right? And then the question is if at some point we have just AI chatbots talking to each other while the humans are, chilling out or being homeless under the bridge or something like that. And so that's the question what the future will hold, right?
His German skills is also good.
Yeah, but you can also ask a German question, right? Also, my wife was law thing, so we asked it an law question yesterday about bankruptcy law and insolvency law and stuff like that, and it kind of made up stuff as well. So
I guess
for legal and law, that's kind of something
maybe
we don't want
so,
to trust it yet, right? So
lawyers will keep their jobs a little while longer, I guess. No, I mean,
so that's actually quite nice, right? So and imagine we had the data generator working, then we could actually import the data into Neo4j as well with the Cypher code, and so it also can do explanations, by the way. So if, for instance, if we do, let me just write explain the following statement. Right. So if I just say match p person ID follows P2 person posted order by T dot created. So we find a person who follows another person, right? So these are the people that I follow on Twitter who post some tweets. And I want to see the last 20 tweets, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what it does, but what we'll see, right? So, and which is also really good because you can give it something like a text or a piece of code or something that's complex, and then get explanations for it as well, right? And that's actually quite cool. So it basically breaks it down and then says, basically,
Yeah.
it's used to find tweets that have been posted by people that a specific person is following and returns the text of those tweets in descending order by their creation date. So, I mean, what else? So our job is done, Alex. So we can, in future, we just let GPT run the live stream and then...
Exactly. No, just needs text to speech and we're done.
And that's something that's also available, right? And it can also, what some people also did is they fed basically things from GPT into image generation models then, like Stable Diffusion and so on, and they got really, really beautiful images out of it because it was able to generate really good prompts. But oftentimes refuses to do the tree things, but I did it in the past as well, and it actually generated a Christmas tree drawing. I can also try to find my screenshot while it's doing this. Let's see if I have the... There you are.
Yeah.
So usually it did also leaves as well, also a stem as well, but let's see. It's really big tree this time.
Yeah.
Okay, it continues here, right? So you see the bottom here. Yeah, so I had, where's my Christmas tree?
You just said trees, so maybe you should. You need
to did I say trees? Ask you out of a drawing of a tree.
Yeah, if you want a Christmas tree, I guess you have to specify that you want.
No, it doesn't do leaf trees basically as well, right? So,
I see.
So the image generation generate. What I did actually generate the dot graph with code for the British royal family. Remember the genealogy episode that we did, Alex?
Yes.
We also had the getcom files for the royal family as well. So I did also as well last week was where is the screenshot? Just looking for the screenshot here somewhere. I've taken so many. There you are. So it basically generates the code for the so you see that it kind of stops here, but then it continues doing it, and then I tried it out, and actually it does full. Let's see if I open this here. So last time I basically just took this from here and pasted it into the online dot renderer, and then you basically have your graph of the family tree, right? So it's pretty cool. I'm actually not sure how correct this is, or if it made stuff up again. But
I mean,
but in general, it's that's something that's also quite nice to see things like that, right? So basically, here you have like the code for this as well. And it explains about the dot language, and each node is a person. So that's what I also really like, is basically that it explains the stuff that it does, right? Kind of the status and children are filed in light blue, and relationships and so on. So that's actually quite interesting from that perspective. And you mentioned Dr. AI, so that's something that Xijing did basically to use GPT as not just as a chatbot like here, but also for instance data extractions, right? So you basically can take the what we saw from Tomasz before, like you can take the English and then can you turn it into the Zephyr's question
exactly,
or that's query, right? So that's really interesting, right? So for instance, if you say which pathogen causes COVID-19, and then if you want to ask this, so generate the imagine you a tool for turning English phrases into Neo4j cipher. What is the output for this phrase? And then what is the pause for COVID-19? So, and hopefully it should generating the cipher statement for that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so which is then really interesting, right? So because usually you would have to kind of put a lot of effort into parsing statements as such, right? So you can tell it a little bit about more about the graph, and then it would probably generate a different kind of statement, right? And for the graph of diseases connected to their causes and drugs for treating. And then we can say, and right, so imagine this thing is called also like a prefix prompt. So usually you wouldn't see this in your in your action. That's what you basically initialize the model with. So actually, ChatGPT also has a prefix prompt, and if you search on Twitter for it, you see that people have actually extracted the prefix prompt as well, which is basically where it says that it's built by OpenAI, what its name is, and what its cutoff data is, and also that browsing is disabled. So it always says that it can't access the internet but it's just a setting that it added to the prefix prompt that basic browsing is disabled. And some people actually made it changed this cutoff date and then also enabled browsing and then had some fun with that as well. So if you Google or if you look at on Twitter for that, then people really use this as such, right? So that's
good.
That's really
just to Sophie,
interesting.
just Toss Sophie, sorry, on Twitch just said, I wonder if it can dream up responses. Yes, we found out that it does. Like
Make
Michael
up stuff,
said, it's eager to please you. So if you type in any question, it will tries to get you some kind of answer, and that answer might be a little bit off. So you need to validate whatever it comes back to you. It's very
exactly.
Sometimes it's a bit.
Exactly. It's not as easily fooled as some of the earlier models, where I think some of the early models answered questions like, which year was the Golden Gate Bridge transported to Egypt or something like that, right? So, and then it starts to answer and makes some stuff up and explains to you why the Golden Gate Bridge was transported to Egypt, right? So at least that's something that it refuses. It says the Golden Gate Bridge is in San Francisco and it has not moved and it has never been in Egypt and so on. But it still has this kind of level of making stuff up, right? So some people said they are more like celebrity people had it generate a bio for them basically, and they said, okay, there are lots of errors in there as well. Of course, that's also what's available as data. But then on the other hand, it's also I think it would be better if it would just say, I don't know, instead of making stuff up, right?
So, it would be better, yeah.
But here, actually, our output now with a better graph model, which we just verbally described, right? So this is our graph model in like 5 words or 10 words, right? And then it actually generates the correct. So we have a disease, COVID-19, the cause here. And then the disease is treated by this treatment, and we return the disease, the cause, and the treatment name. Right, and then you get the explanation for it, right? So from that perspective, it's actually pretty impressive as well, right? So, and that's what Xi Jinping did here in his Dr. AI. So not just for answering questions, but also as a natural language understanding and a data extraction method, right? So where he basically used the input is something from like scientific papers, and then basically extracts the things and then the entities and the relationship, and then turns it into a graph model that he can then use to answer the questions, right?
Yeah. Etienne has a question also on visualization. Did you try to have it visualize a graph?
Yeah, it can't really visualize well. So that's why I did the dot syntax, the GraphViz syntax. Can you visualize the let's say what's a simple graph? The relationships between the characters in the musical Hamilton as a graph as a network. Well, imagine you are a graph visualization tool for ASCII art visualization. So we need to tell it what it is and then hope that it kind of takes our hint and does something. I try to do like ASCII art stuff, but it's really oftentimes just complaints I can't do this. But as I said, many times I have I think this is a good conclusion.
Yes.
Right. But what's kind of funny is that it actually has the correct explanation, but I'm getting
okay. Well, almost. I would say close enough, but the text is right. The visualization is not so great. So maybe there is, this is another issue. So you see, it's maybe not so.
The explanation is correct, right? So what we could probably do is instead of doing this is show the relationships as a CSV of source target relationship type. And then we can just use Neo4j or other graph visualization tools to visualize it actually, right? So it doesn't have any visualization, so it's really a pure text tool. And but what you could do is basically to have it generate outputs or prompts for something, or so that allows you to do this, right? Right. So we have now our CSV here, and then we can basically turn this into an. So you have Alexander Hamilton, Burr, Eliza, George Washington, and so on, right? So and then you see already there's this. The different people with their different like relationships as well, right? Eliza and Angelica as sisters and so on, right? So it's
I mean that's it is just released, so I guess at some point maybe
it will also
it can do more.
I mean with all the feedback it will also train, and there will also be the GPT-4 and but imagine the breadth of stuff that we asked it, right? So we can also say actually I did something like generate an HTML page with 4 columns where the left column is 20 or 1/5. And style it in 4 colors and fill each column with common HTML elements with not common but fitting. So and then it basically generates an HTML file with the CSS, the styling, and the HTML elements in the columns, right? So which is pretty good starting point if you want to start doing something and you don't want to type all the stuff. Then you basically, so you see the 20% thing here from the columns, right? So that's the 1/5. So I correctly interpreted 1/5 as 20%. And then basically gives us our columns and then basically puts in even text about 4. I actually wanted to have styling, so I think this is like an
it's a color.
right. So so if we take this and let's put shit. Oh, sorry, I could just have used copy code. Sorry.
Yeah.
Copy code, new file, gpt3.html, and then we can just open 3 HTML here, and you see basically the right, and here's the fall color as well, right? And so which is a really good starting point for stuff. Or it can also do, let's say, React components or stuff like that, right? And
just also for you also on the chat, can it generate GDS code? So yes, I mean we tried it earlier.
Yeah, we had it earlier where it had the projection thing. I think I closed the tab now, but yeah, so I lost this, but
it is.
And if you look at the recording of the stream, you can see the GDS code as well, right? So I needed to tell it a little bit more what it needs to do, but it did a correct projection from the graph into the in-memory graph, for instance, right? And or you can probably ask it, how would I run, let's say, betweenness centrality with the Neo4j. Or perhaps compute instead of run. But let's see what it says.
Yeah.
So when I used it on last week on the weekend, it was actually faster than this, right? So it's really
it's a bit full, but you see it explains
to
you
you
what
GDS betweenness, right? To compute the betweenness, right? Explain the parameters. What it by the way, what it does for continuing, I think, is it just takes my question, its own output, and then it appends the new question at the end. So it basically uses this as context, basically from one to the next. That's how it takes. See, so it also explains.
Yeah, every little bit is explained.
Right, and then like all the properties and so on, and then you can say show an example for a movie recommendation or for a movie similarity graph, and then we can see if it is able to show us an example for that. So, and of course, it uses all the content from the docs and so on, but you don't have to go and search in the docs and find it all yourself, right? So it's basically so we have a graph of movie similar to in direction. Node properties is title of the movie, and then we can do the betweenness computation between in this graph, right? Which is correct example code.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And then we can actually, after it, it even shows us how to get the data then back from Neo4j after we've written it to Neo4j and such. Right.
That's really good.
So from that perspective, try it out, and it's as long as it's open. I'm not sure if they shut it down at some point after they learned enough, but give it a try in your own domain, right? So if you're like Etienne, if you're in the medical domain or others in cybersecurity or other topics. So I asked it like a ton of questions all around human knowledge, and it actually was really, really good from that perspective. Right. Yeah, so that's mostly it what I wanted to show. And if you want to see examples, you can just go to Twitter search and say ChatGPT 3 or ChatGPT. Look for photo results, and then here's, for instance, one with the image prompts, right? So where it generated prompts for the image generator, and you see that it's actually really beautiful images that it generated. So you basically took the prompt from the from GPT and put it into, and so you see a lot of stuff. It can also do poems, and in the style of someone. I mean, it didn't know Jack Sparrow, but write
No, it
a
didn't. It
poem
didn't want it.
about graphs are very rare in the style of Neil Gaiman. So that's our closing argument. Let's see what it does. Right. But there's lots of stuff, right, in here. It can do code generation, analysis, and so on. Here's actually someone generated indexes. Interesting.
That's okay. Let's play a game. Okay.
So there's a lot of stuff that here. It's a poem. Graphs are everywhere in every shape and size, from the simple line graph to the complex network. They show us patterns and trends, real connections and insights, help us make predictions and decisions, and bring order to the chaos of data. In the world of finance and science, in the realms of art and politics, graphs are a powerful tool for understanding and explaining. They are a window into the world, a way to say beyond the surface, to discover the hidden truths and tell the stories of our time. So let us embrace the power of graphs and let them guide us on our journey. And as we explore the wonders of the world and seek to understand the universe. How beautiful is that?
Okay, that is
really good.
That's really good. Yeah.
And so it's a good closing, I think,
you need
for our session.
You need to send me the
I'll do the screenshot. Yeah.
The text.
Yeah.
So I can add it to the YouTube description, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
I'll do that, Alex.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was a little bit of a different episode, but I thought it was definitely worthwhile to play around and try it
definitely.
out.
That was fun.
So and let us know. Also, let us know in the comments what you tried and what worked for you, and share your screenshots and or in the community. Because it's really interesting to see also where the limits are, right? So that's kind of also the interesting bit, kind of not just kind of what's possible, but also what are the limits as such, right? And how can we basically make sure that, you know, whatever comes out of this is kind of trustworthy and correct, right? I mean, the poems and stuff are fun and entertaining, but if it generates data of something, especially if you tell it to do something, not random data generation, but for instance, like get me convert some data, or so, like I showed that made mistakes, then can it verify stuff actually as well, right? So it's actually something that I should try with the JSON thing, where it made a mistake, if it can verify that. Can you find a mistake, basically? Because I tried it, I had to finish an article for a magazine, and I just pasted the article parts in it, and they find grammar and spelling mistakes, and it showed me actually many of the grammar and spelling mistakes from the article. Even stuff that like regular, like wir instead of wird or so, right? So like the just missing a D on a verb, and then it's basically still a correct pronoun, but it found it, right, and said, here you should use something else, and which was interesting as well, right? So it also can do teacher support, basically, not just student support, but also teacher support as such. But then how much can you trust it, right? And how much can you rely on it?
And it's maybe a good closing point from Etienne. The example is about answer to questions, but how to create new knowledge, and I guess
exactly that's what it can't do, right?
It cannot do that. So it relies on existing it relies on the knowledge graph that it generates from all the websites that are existing, that it crawls across, and to find the data points there, but it cannot add to it yet, I guess.
But what's interesting, how much is new knowledge that humans create? How often is it really something really new, right? If you think about it, how often did we kind of discover a new, elementary particle, or a new element, or a new way of doing things? And how often is it actually combination of existing knowledge that someone has not thought about combining yet, right? So and that's actually something that it can do. Here's an example where I asked it last week. Can you create a card game for the Expanse for the movie series, right? And And here it's something that no one has basically done before. And so there's movie series on one side, card games on the other side, and actually basically combines it. And there's a deck building mechanic, strategy card game, basically, right? And which is probably similar to Colony Wars or Magic the Gathering or something like that, right? But it takes the knowledge from card games and strategy card games and the expands cast, and then if you say kind of, I haven't tried this before, but if you tell it, then show me some example cards, then it would kind of apply the characters from the show to the cards, and then combines this, right? And that's what I thought as well. Just in the human knowledge, there's so much disparate knowledge that people have not combined yet, right? That exists somewhere out there, but no human has seen the connection between these two things, and that's kind of actually something that I think it can do, right? And where you basically have, of course, it's in the knowledge graph and in the knowledge that it has been trained for, right?
Yeah.
But if a human has not combined these yet, then perhaps that's something that we would, from a human perspective, would perceive as new knowledge, but it's actually not new knowledge because it's basically just combining existing things from two different fields, for instance, right? And you can actually also ask it stuff like this, right? So you can also say, combine this thing from biology with the thing from physics or from technology or something like that, and then say, okay, what would you make out of it? And then basically pulls the two pieces of information from the two sides together. And while I don't think it will generate a new knowledge, but it gives you like pointers or triggers or like ideas for what to explore and how to explore it, right? And because you don't have the access to all the information, and it has the access to the information, which is good and bad at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Etienne said, registering knowledge rather than creating. So it's exactly that. So I think there's so much information out there. I think that's what we try, right, at Neo4j when we create these applications, these knowledge graphs,
pulling information from different places.
Exactly, pulling it all together, make research, come to a conclusion quicker. Get knowledge together from different sources, and then help out with some additional insights. It is there. It is just a little bit hidden and a little bit hard to get to. And I guess this is, like I said earlier, this is the perfect. If anybody else needed a reason or an explanation why knowledge graphs and why combining information across all the data, I mean, this is like it's like the biggest set of data silos that are existing. It's combining them all together, and like this last example here, combining the world of board games with the world of science fiction.
It's even a virtual world, right? It's not even a real world, right? So it's just made up.
Yeah. So it's super cool, super good to see. Very interesting. I think it was very fun to try these various use cases or these funny and more serious prompts today. So I enjoyed it a lot. It was good, different, something different today. So yeah. Okay.
Well,
I think that is that brings us to the end. I mean, I mentioned at the beginning, so I don't want to take too much time. So for this, but like I said earlier, tomorrow going meta episode 11 with graph expectations. On Wednesday, learn with Jason Langsdorff from Netlify on deploying apps via Netlify, and next week APOC as well as full stack graph application book chapter 4. So these are the upcoming episodes on the Neo4j stream. So if you don't want to,
in here,
not yet. No, I need to set it up later this week. But if you want to be reminded and up to date with all the things that are happening, just subscribe or follow on YouTube or on Twitch, and you will.
That's the easiest way. Exactly. Yep. Cool. Thank you so much, Alex. This was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, thank you, Michael. Thank you for suggesting this, and thank you all for watching. And hope to see you again over the next couple of days with the other streams. Thanks, John.
Cool. Take care, everyone.
Take care, everybody. Exactly. Bye.
Bye.